Thank you so much for being here today. I'm Joel Barna. I'm an entrusted teacher with Apamada's home Saga in Austin. I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and that's a picture of an Albuquerque sky behind me, inspired by some of the beautiful photographs that I've seen from Ed Sanchez, our monitor today. Ed, thank you so much for Ed's shared a larger version of the incredible photograph that he has as his background with me last week. And it's well worth looking up his work online. I want to thank Ed. I want to thank Peg and Flint, our teachers. I want to thank you, Jay, for your addition there. I want to thank Trudy and Josh and Flint for their amazing work in leading inquiry in the last few weeks. And again, thank you all for being here today. Let's sit for 15 minutes as we do. And at the end, we'll say the verse of the robe together. And then there's two things I want to share. One is a recording of a very famous poem called September 1, 1939 by W.H. Auden, actually read by Auden himself. And then a very brief excerpt from a book called Fierce Vulnerability by someone who I had not heard of until about a week ago, a activist and Buddhist practitioner, an activist leader named Kazu Haga, who spoke in Austin last night. Remember that you are an utterly unique expression of the universe in this very moment. I like to remind myself of that when I'm sitting. And be relaxed and at ease and pay attention to what's going on right now with you. Thank you. Please join me in saying the verse of the robe 3 times. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. Wearing the universal teaching, I realize the one true nature, thus harmonizing all being. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. Wearing the universal teaching, I realize the one true nature, thus harmonizing all being. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. Wearing the universal teaching, I realize the one true nature, thus harmonizing all being. Thank you. A brief note, there will be no inquiry on the 11th of November. Appamada is going to be closed that week as the ceremonies unfold for Nate Smalley's Dharma transmission. And all events, even remote events like this, will be canceled. Let me say, today I want to share some things that are very important to me. And we'll have, as I've mentioned, a poem by W.H. Auden, and then we'll have a few quotes from this writer, Kazu Haga. A few weeks ago, I talked in inquiry about the intensive that Peg and Nate had led in early September, and I used an abbreviated version of an exercise from that intensive called the Bodhisattva's Check-in. I chose to share that exercise because I had found it so encouraging in a time that seems to me very difficult and about to get much worse in the United States. And because it pointed to our practice as a way to find resources for myself and for all of us to meet the challenges that are ahead. In my enthusiasm to share that exercise, I forgot an important blind spot that I have. And it had the effect of touching on triggers for trauma responses from some people who were there. I am, and I remain moved by the grace with which this fact was brought forward. And I'm going to have ongoing conversations with a number of Sangha members around the topic. And I'm doing some actual focus study with Rosemary Gardella Gates on this, and we're going to be making some presentations about this later. And it has a lot to do with why I'm so interested in Kazu Haga. Since then, a couple of other things have happened. Early last week, I saw an email invitation from the Presbyterian Seminary of the Southwest in Austin to the Appamada Sangha. It's located only a few blocks south of the home of the Appamada Sangha, which used to be Peg Syverson's house. And it was an invitation to attend a lecture by this writer, Kazu Haga, an American, Japanese-born American writer and activist, and someone I had never heard of before. He is a trainer in Kingian nonviolence, something which a discipline which I'm sorry to say I had not heard of before looking up Kazu Haga. And this is a important threshold for me, I will say. Last Saturday, I was also one of thousands of people here in Albuquerque who attended or took part in a No Kings rally in March. And then also on Saturday, I got a copy of Haga's book called Fierce Vulnerability, which I highly recommend. I'm only a brief way into it. I will say I on Saturday evening, after getting the book, I opened it at random and ran across a passage in which I didn't mark it, so I can't quote it exactly. But he says basically, marches are very nice. There needs to be a way for old people and children to participate, but that's not really going to get anything done. The rest of the book is laying out a, a curriculum based in Kingian nonviolence for meeting the challenges of today. So today I have two things to share. The first is one of the most famous poems by W.H. Auden called September 1, 1939. And you'll probably already know it. You may know that Auden repudiated it later in his life because of its closing stanzas. He later debated with his friend Christopher Isherwood and others, who was practicing yoga and meditation and urging the same on Auden, whether what he saw as a retreat into personal spiritual development and spiritual life was enough or even possible given the times. And as I say, after the poem is shared by Ed, I'm going to read a few quotes from Kazu Haga. So Ed, if you will please share that poem. Thanks, Ed. So I'm going to read some from some closing summary things from Kazu Haga's book, Fierce Vulnerability. It's a little bit long. It will cut into the time we would normally spend in sharing the real purpose of inquiry. But it seems important to me to be able to share these. What he writes is actually 7 points. One, we need a fundamental transformation of society and everything we think we know about what it means to be human. So think of our bodhisattva vow. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. I think that guided by his Buddhist background, that Kazu Haga is making the same point here. That really, at the Buddha, in his presentations to his Sangha, emphasized that there needed to be a different kind of society, one that Dr. King called the beloved society, the beloved community. His second point, a transformation is coming whether we are ready for it or not. And he cites the crisis of the climate, which is driving immigration all over the world and will lead to absolute upsetting of all that we are comfortable with now. And he says, human-made systems and natural ecosystems are in the midst of collapse. There is no stopping climate change or saving the world anymore. The level of destruction and amount of suffering caused will depend largely on our readiness to accept the coming challenges. As a group called Movement Generation says, Haga quotes, transition is inevitable, justice is not. 3, he says, we cannot think our way to an answer, and we cannot control change. The crises we face are too complex to figure out with our intellects alone. Change at that scale is not something we can control. We aren't creating the change, but we can be in right relationship to it. We can slow down and sense and respond. Our movements need to be guided by sources other than power maps, data analysis, and strategic plans. We need to learn to sit in silence, watch the stars, be with the wind and the birds, align our work with the seasons, sing and make art together, instead of trying to solve anything, to simply listen. 4, without knowing, we need to act. Despite not having all the answers, we need to have the courage to take the next step, to step outside the comforts of our own movement spaces and use our bodies and hearts to intervene in the places where systemic violence and injustice are manifesting. The goal of our actions isn't to change legislation, and the targets of our actions are not inanimate systems. Our goal is to help society feel emotions that have been repressed, like grief, so that we can wake up from our collective delusions. Our targets are living systems, humans, non-humans, ecosystems. 5, there is an inseparable connection between personal and collective healing. The more I heal my own traumas, the more I get a sense of what it means to heal collective trauma. The more I heal, the more I can contribute to creating healed movement spaces. And the more healed our movement spaces are, the more we can offer the world. There is no separation between personal and collective healing. They are the same processes taking place at different scales. 6, social injustices and systemic violence are not political issues, but manifestations of collective trauma. These systems don't emerge in our world because certain people are simply evil and want to make others suffer. Deep down, we're all hurting. That unseen, unhealed hurt of humanity that humanity is holding manifests in the many forms of violence, oppression, and injustice we see in our world. 7, you can't shut down injustice any more than you can shut down trauma. You can't go to someone acting out of trauma and tell them stop it. Yes, if you use enough force, it may work temporarily, but it's never a sustainable solution. We need movements. We need people who have the courage to put their hearts and bodies on the line and organize for large-scale change. But we need to do it in a radically different way than what many of us are used to. If injustice is a sign of collective trauma and healing is our goal, we have to find a more skillful and inviting way to stand up and invite others with us. So those are brief excerpts from this amazing book. He then in the book goes into actual strategies and stories of places where he has seen change occur and what he's learned from Dr. King and from Buddhism and other sources that can help us find our way to act, even though we don't know, to invite our connection with people that we have been trained to see as other and to see as acting in as evil, to reframe that so that we can see the actual source of the harm, as Auden writes so movingly. We come to know what all school children learn. Those to whom evil is done do evil in return. So, thank you. I invite questions, responses. Bridget.
Thank you, Joel, and thank you, Ed, for that offering. It was wonderful to hear Auden in his own voice, and I had not read that poem. I was curious about this thing. You said that Appamada had received an email about a presentation at the Seminary of the Southwest. Has that already occurred?
It did. It was last night.
Oh, okay. I didn't.
I've not seen if they recorded it,
Okay.
but Kazu Haga has
Mhm.
several YouTube talks available on YouTube.
Okay. Well, it'd be helpful. It would be helpful to me just to have if anyone knows the spelling of his name, put it in the chat. And
I will do that right now.
but I realize the idea of the connection. I recently read about this thing called the dignity index, and how we've got to start talking to one another, because the fact that our Congress people aren't talking to one another, the shutdown keeps going on and it's impacting many, many people. I know that even military people are not receiving, enlisted and other people. So it's it's, I feel a sense of heartbreak, but at the same time, I feel encouragement knowing that I'm being with a group of people who want to be more active and more of a stimulus for this. So thank you very much.
I thank you for saying that, Bridget. And this is building on something that Peg, at least, has been talking about for years. That really this is the work, the type of work of simply connecting with each other is at least a beginning to a broader social healing, which can only happen if we are honest with ourselves, if we are willing to share our vulnerability with each other and take strength from what we can share. I know that there's a group at Appamada that meets regularly called Buddhist Action Now, and that has done work to connect with other groups in the Austin community. And if people have examples of other efforts toward connection, throughout our society, I would love to hear about them. And I'm speaking as an American, and we have many people outside the United States taking part. But anything that you can share, I would love to hear about. Denise?
Thank you so much, Joel. Well, before I share, I would like to, and I was very much touched by the poem of W.H. Auden.
That's how I say it.
Yes, good. And it was the starting year of the Second World War. So, and we all know what came afterwards. So it shakes me a bit, like as if there were a possibility of a big disaster just behind the door. But maybe what I want to share with you about coming together with people that I had not contacted before. There is in Switzerland, and I think throughout Europe, and maybe even also in the US, I'm part of Kurdish Jewish Alliance. And we had a meeting between Kurds, Alevites, Yazidi, and Jewish people, and we came together and we ate together, and we asked questions and listened to things that we have in common and we don't have in common. And it was just so immensely easy when curious and open people just sit together, very simple, just having food, and we cooked. And already the fact we were 3 women who organized it, so we cooked a lot of food, and just to cook together, it's and it was linking, the Kurd said, oh, that's similar to what we eat, or this I haven't eaten, I have never eaten. So just the simplicity. And then I took the train back to Bern, and there was 5,000 people demonstrating for Palestine, and it was not a lot of Palestinians, most left-wing, very violence-prone people. So it was like in one day I had this clash of possible basic human connection, and then the people who just go for the joy of destroying, in a way, for the moment being. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you. I read a book a long time ago about, well, kind of the men's movement in a response. It was a response toward feminist consciousness raising, and it was about consciousness raising for men. And it begins by saying that getting people together to talk, particularly men together, to talk about issues related to that, that the conversations will start with anger, that there's no way around the collective trauma that people carry, and they will train their anger on each other in the movement toward being able to share their experience. And I later took part in some meetings along that line that had been organized through a men's group at Apamata, and that did happen. That that path forward is not ever going to be easy. Even I suspect in the situation that you were describing, Denise, where you came together with a goal of sharing what joined you together. That there's other work that has to happen. So thank you for sharing that. And it's heartening to hear about that, and just, truthful what else happened that day. Rosemary,
Am I sorry?
you can talk. Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. Hi, Joel, and thank you so much. I wanted to offer, and some people may know about Braver Angels. Could you raise your hand if you've heard about them? Good, yeah. So I heard about this group. I think it might have been from PEG, right after a year ago, after the election and here. And they started in New York City about 8 years ago and now are nationwide. And their sole purpose is depolarization. And they recruit people who lean different ways. And they have different workshops, and they're very, very organized, and they have a lot of volunteer opportunities. And I decided during actually the intensive that Joel mentioned, where we studied Joanna Macy, to put my hat in the ring and get some training in organizing. I've never done anything like this before. So my job would be to select one of their workshops, which are all developed already, and find a moderator, someone who's trained to do it, and then put the whole thing together. And apparently you take 2 months to organize this, and you get a local organization to co-sponsor it with you. And I'm doing something with a senior center in the area. So I asked them, well, what do you think about this? And one of the topic was how to disagree better. That's an example. And the director said, sure. So I'm in training, toe in the water. We'll see how it goes, see how I feel and how it goes. But I really, they have, you can attend online any of their workshops that they give. So if you just go online, you'll see what's available just to be part of it yourself if you want. So I offer Braver Angels. So thank you very much, Joel.
Thank you, Rosemary. Jay, thank you for offering this support through these goofy Zoom gestures. I really appreciate it. Marla, welcome. You're muted right now. Okay, good.
Something that came to mind was the chant, all my ancient tangled karma, born through greed, hate, and delusion. I may be mixing up different chants, but greed, hate, and delusion came to mind. And my ancient Tangle Karma hour and the Tangle Karma, when I think about it personally, what makes me reactive and angry and averse and stressed out about all of this sometimes is the sense that I am personally responsible for changing it, which is my problem. But what gave me so much hope about Saturday was realizing it's not just my problem. There are 7 million at least people who also consider it to be their responsibility to do something about this, and that feeling of community and solidarity is what matters a lot and has decreased my sense of reactivity somewhat in the last few days. The amount of stress that I feel that I've been personally bearing as if I have to solve it myself. It's irrational to think that. But I appreciate our talking about it. When we don't talk about it, it increases those feelings of isolation and stress for me. And so I'm grateful to this community that we can talk about this stuff on a worldwide basis. It's not just affecting people in the United States.
No, not at all.
Anyway, thank you.
I would say, yeah, to the extent that we are isolated, we are that much closer to collapse. And we're that much closer to not recognizing any sources of energy or power or responsibility. It is very challenging to me what Kazu Haga writes, that we have to act without knowing what's going to happen. And that we have to act from a place of meeting others on equal ground, as Diane Rossetto writes in the precepts text that we have used. So Ed, I see your hand, and then Pam.
I couldn't add myself, only other people for a second. There is so much connected to this. And sometimes I have concern that we can make statements which, while important, significant, and valuable, sometimes don't get to enough of the crux of the matter. And everything, absolutely everything that we do has consequence. I know I don't personally have control over anything. I can't make a statement and make the Senate do something reasonable. So yeah, on a certain macro level, we can't control things to that level of whatever our point of view is, making things happen just from my particular point of view. But anything and everything that I do does have a consequence, and there is power and there is significance in doing something, whether it's reading a book, whether it's talking to one other person or attending a protest, with 1,000 more people. Each one of those things has a consequence, and that consequence multiplies itself and spreads across, without getting into physics. You drop a stone into a pond, and that ripple expands, and that vibration affects something else, and it moves outward. And something that I hear commonality in statement, which makes me feel very good, is there seems to be three common things here. One of those is vulnerability. Facing that vulnerability, admitting that vulnerability, living into the vulnerability, which is when it's connected to your humanity, whatever your point of view is, whatever your background is. And I've got experiences and background that I would probably say not anybody else on the call right now has the same. But again, it's because of, you know, my age, where I grew up, blah, 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 blah. But yet and still, we have a humanity that has a thread. And that thread, when it's coupled with our vulnerability, and the third thing, which I really love, is food. We get people together over food. The amount of connection that's made. There's about 7 other guys that I get together with. Usually we try and do it once a month. And the one guy who started it was ex-military, combat vet, um, a trained theologian, a vacillating agnostic. Every now and again, he decides he's going to be agnostic. Otherwise, he's very, very spiritual. And we tease him about being a closet Buddhist. But, you know, and he nicknamed the group Mom. And that was mostly old men. So the mom, that got Marla. The moms got together, and all of us are very, very good cooks. So we bring food and we sit down and talk. And one of the things which was interesting, and I think it was you who said it, Joel, is that initial connection is when, especially with older men, which is a really hard and rare thing that happens, unfortunately, but not directing the negativity at each other, but expressing at least that, hey, I'm pissed off about this, this, or this, or I'm sad that we've gotten to this point, or I have hope that we can move forward, yada, 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 and have that food and open to that vulnerability so that we share. And then, you know, the next time we get together, we'll find out, hey, somebody talked to 4 other people about maybe one of our main topics with spirituality and duality. And it has an effect. And that is something that I heartily suggest that we promote, that no one get into a mode of inaction or thinking that I'm not effective, because you are, and you are powerful. Even if it's a 3-line haiku that you share, it all has consequence and it all has meaning, and it's all very, very powerful. And it brings us to a point where I can be in a group like this and relate to people individually as well as holistically and more universally, without and having a different point of view to start with. I start with looking at everybody on this call as a human being, you know, not, and honestly, I mean this, not a woman, not a man, not a white person, not somebody from the middle of the country, any of that stuff. But when you start with that humanity, you can make great and significant inroads. And I'm going to stop now. I see Pam has her hand up.
Thank you, Ed. And I want to say, as you were speaking, what came into my mind was homage to Peg and Flint for for their teaching for more than 20 years and beyond, that is the container that holds everything that you just expressed, Ed. Thank you. Pam, welcome. We should be able to hear you.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Thanks to everyone who spoke. And thank you, Joel, for putting this issue right out there. Both the part of what we do and the part about the trauma on the inside that's causing this, that moves it forward. Those of us who've been fortunate enough to find accepting places and containers with which to work with this inside of ourselves and find the language about it and all of that, it's invaluable. To me, it's just changed my life. And one thing that I found particularly valuable is learning how to track things in myself and learning how to connect, I'm going to call it trauma, the hurts that are inside of me and the feelings and where I take that and where the thoughts go. And in my being able to do that with myself in an honest way, also being able to connect with other people and being able to see and approach people a little differently, because I can see how things that have happened in my life have stoked anger inside of me, and much because of my personality and not wanting to be seen, I don't outwardly do much. Sometimes accidentally, we do things, we say things that are cold. But when I can see that when I'm hurt, kind of the knee-jerk reaction is to do mean things back, then it makes it so that I can be a little bit more open regarding when people are doing those things. So I don't know if I'm being clear about how I'm saying that, but basically it puts us in a similar pot. It puts us like, it's not me and this other person separate and different and I'm good and they're bad. It's more that when we're hurt, we both tend to go in sometimes in an angry direction. And there are a lot of things that go into that. And I've done plenty of reading about trauma and trauma recovery and all of that in my life, some studying. So I can understand also intellectually how some people fly off in really extreme reactions. So I think that's really helpful that we have been and continue to be guided in learning how to do that within ourselves. Because when we can see it in ourselves, then I think I think we all can most easily see it in other people. And regarding I can't fix it, I heard someone say not long ago that these issues didn't begin with us and they're not going to end with us. We just have our place now. So that has been helpful with me in and not feeling responsible for the whole pot, but just for what is in front of me.
Thank you for sharing that, Pam.
Thank you.
Hearing what you said, I'm reminded of that brief statement in Phil's Fierce Vulnerability, where Haga writes, or he's quoting another saying, but it is, change is going to happen. It's inevitable, but justice is not. And it is we, because of what we can share, can step forward to heal ourselves first and to meet with other people. And those are not, and to the healing for ourselves and the meeting with other people are intertwined. They're not separate. I know this. Ed was talking before about connecting with other men. I have two men in my life, family members, for whom I feel a great deal of anger, and from whom I feel a great deal of anger and contempt. And I don't know even where to begin, except to pay attention to what's going on and to, as you say, look within and see that connection with all beings, including the people that I have the most trouble with. So we should close today. Let's say the 4 practice principles together. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering. Holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher. Being just this moment, compassion's way. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering. Holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher, being just this moment, compassion's way. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering, holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher, being just this moment, compassion's way. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Very, 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 very good, significant talk today. And I just want to remind everybody that Appamada's programs, their facilities, their teachers are supported by your generosity. And you can do that by going to appamada.org/contribute. And also make the invitation that we're going to be here till the top of the hour. So if you want to stay some more, have some continued conversation, please pop yourself into gallery view, stay right there, and we'll be right here. Thank you all.